Welcome to the third episode of the RyHulk Rants podcast. I am your host, RyHulk. The subject of this episode are the parking bans made by the incompetent West Wyoming Borough Council. Check out my previous episode to learn why they are incompetent. In 2018, the West Wyoming Borough Council banned all parking on the street I have lived on my entire life. We received a letter in the mail out of nowhere. It stated that the West Wyoming Fire Chief, Matt Grantede, and the West Wyoming Police Chief, Kurt Nacera, said it was needed. I went to council meetings to express my voice against it, that it wasn't really needed. At the first meeting I went to with my dad, before the meeting even started, the mayor, Joe Herbert, council president Gary Stavish, and borough solicitor Linnell Lucas were seen whispering to each other and looking right at us. It was suspicious behavior by public servants. It was like pulling teeth getting information out of them. It seemed the main reason was that someone wouldn't move their truck when the ambulance was going up the street. This incident happened at the top of the street. They mentioned some other things that were just lame excuses. The council president mentioned that the mother of individuals that are part of the fire department and ambulance was lying on the floor waiting for an ambulance. They didn't say if it was at the same time as the other incident. Not sure why they would have to be secretive about it. Are they hiding something? I asked for evidence, and all they showed me were pictures that proved nothing. Whoever took them shouldn't quit their day job. They don't have a future in photography. More lame excuses. Since I live on the street, I know the ambulance and fire truck don't even go up the street much, so they over-exaggerated the problem. I argued that there were better solutions to the alleged problem. We were told to park in our driveways or on our lawns. Council President Gary Stavish said, quote, unquote, the party's over. What a little prick. The council clowns also insulted and laughed at me during meetings, so fuck them. A few other residents living on the street went to argue against the ban too. The ones who didn't are a bunch of pussies. They are pathetic. To sum this all up, the borough raped us of our rights without any compensation. There was also a huge conflict of interest when this was passed. The council president, Gary Stavish, also lives on the street. He should have recused himself from voting on it, but he didn't. With people parking on the street, it made it harder for him to back out of his driveway with his big truck, so he gains from the ban. He's a short little bitch who drives a big truck to overcompensate for what he lacks. Council later banned parking on two other smaller streets, and the council president owns 2 properties on one of those streets. Again, he didn't recuse himself, not even trying to hide the conflict of interest and corruption. The Grantede and Ostrowski families, who are both involved with the fire department, also gained from the ban. Both families use the street to get to the 2 side streets at the top of the street. The Grantedes drive big trucks up and down the street every day. They also drag huge trailers behind them. It's easier for them to get up the street now with parking banned. One of the Ostrowskis on the fire department has been seen driving his ATV up the street multiple times, which is against state laws. He should know this. He also didn't wear a helmet, so obviously he's not a safety expert. I contacted my representatives about this matter. There was no state law stating that they had to ban parking on the street. There are many better solutions. But they wanted it, so they passed it. They said they took measurements of the street, but never showed them. Can't show proof of something that doesn't exist. The idiots who passed this ordinance were former Mayor Joe Cryptkeeper Herbert and council members Gary Stavish, Mike Dolan, Randy Colarusso, Maureen Zaboski, and Daniel Griskevich. So 2 middle fingers and a fuck you to those assholes. Since my father had health issues, we tried to get him a handicapped parking space in front of our house. He was a former volunteer for the West Wyoming Ambulance and Fire Department. I will get into how they pushed him away from volunteering in the next episode. And the bastards denied it. In doing so, they also lost out on the money that we paid for the parking space. The borough solicitor told us to park in the next available space on another street. My dad did this and ended up getting hit by a car crossing the street. This shortened his life. He could have parked on the street in front of our house, and it would never have stopped an ambulance or fire truck from getting up the street. They knew this. They just didn't care. After this, the borough changed the handicap parking ordinance. Why? Because the council and solicitor are heartless bastards. The borough abused their power with this parking ban on my street, and none of them deserve to be serving on council. This entire parking ban bullshit shows just how incompetent the West Wyoming Council is. I'd be surprised if they know how to wipe their own asses. And there is blatant proof that the parking ban wasn't needed. Matt Grantede, the fire chief at the time who suggested the council to enact the parking ban, owned the big gray building at the beginning of the street. He and his mutant sons parked on the street when unloading the junk they stored in the building. There was no reason for them to. They had lots of parking spaces behind the building. They were just lazy. The borough let them get away with this too. If they could park on the street whenever they wanted to, then why couldn't anyone else? It makes no fucking sense. Their actions show the parking ban really wasn't needed. The parking ban also allows for the grantees to drive their big trucks and trailers up the street. It was a huge conflict of interest for them to have any say in the parking ban. This stupid parking ban also greatly depreciates the value of my house. You also can't have parties and enjoy your property with family and friends. It also makes it hard to move without being able to park on the street. Now you must worry about being ticketed if you park a moving truck on the street. That's a lawsuit against the borough just waiting to happen. I lived on my street my entire life. Nobody died because an ambulance couldn't get to them, and no house ever burned down because the fire truck couldn't get to them. So this parking ban makes no sense. It's just fear-mongering by a bunch of shady bastards. The parking ban makes the street less safe because it allows more speeding and people looking at their phones while driving down the street every day. And West Wyoming ignores this problem. In conclusion, this stupid parking ban does nothing to save lives, and it never will. It is just a waste like the council members and the borough fire department. Tune in next time for a new episode of the RyHulk Rants podcast. It will be another good one.